It was 2:17 a.m. on a humid July night in Leon County, Florida. The roads were quiet, save for the occasional hum of a passing truck. Officer Darren Cole had been patrolling the outskirts of Tallahassee when he spotted a black Dodge Charger weaving slightly between lanes. The taillight was cracked, flickering like a dying firefly. He flipped on his lights. The car pulled over slowly, deliberately, as if the driver had rehearsed this moment. Cole approached with caution. The woman inside rolled down her window, her face illuminated by the dashboard glow. She was striking, voluptuous, with long auburn hair, high cheekbones, and a calmness that felt unnatural. Her name, according to the license, was Marissa Lane, 32. Local address. No priors. But Cole's instincts were sharp. Something was wrong. The car smelled faintly of bleach. Her pupils were dilated. Her fingers trembled slightly as she handed over her registration. And then there was the trunk. She kept glancing at it, like it held a secret she couldn't bear to keep. Cole asked her to step out. Marissa hesitated. Her lips parted, as if to protest, but she nodded and complied. Her heels clicked against the asphalt. She stood with her arms crossed, defensive. Backup arrived within minutes. The trunk was opened. 3 black trash bags, 1 leaking. Inside, a severed arm. Female, pale, tattooed. Cole stepped back, bile rising in his throat. Marissa didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply said, "You weren't supposed to find that." Marissa Lane wasn't just any woman. She was a puzzle of contradictions. Raised in Ocala, Florida, she had troubled childhood. Her father was a Vietnam vet with untreated PTSD. Her mother a devout Pentecostal who believed mental illness was a test of faith. Marissa learned early to mask her emotions, to survive by blending in. She was brilliant, graduated top of her class, studied psychology at Florida State University, but she never finished. Dropped out in her final year after a breakdown that no one saw coming. She had a history of unstable relationships, intense, passionate, and often violent. Her last known boyfriend? Deputy Travis Holt, a rising star in the Leon County Sheriff's Department. They had dated for 2 years, lived together for 1. Then, suddenly, she vanished from his life. No one knew why, but Travis did. And now, with body parts in her trunk, the past was clawing its way back into the present. Before the body in the trunk, before the bleach and the lies, there was love. Marissa Lane met Deputy Travis Holt at a charity event hosted by the Leon County Sheriff's Department. She was volunteering, handing out flyers for domestic violence awareness. He was in uniform, charming, confident, and 10 years her senior. They clicked instantly. Travis was everything Marissa thought she needed: stable, respected, protective. After years of chaotic relationships, he felt like a safe harbor. But safety, she would learn, can be a cage. Marissa had always been drawn to intensity. Her childhood was a minefield of emotional neglect and religious guilt. She craved connection but feared vulnerability. Travis offered structure, but beneath his calm exterior was a man who needed control. At first, it was subtle. He'd comment on her clothes. "You don't need to show so much skin." He'd ask about her friends. "Why do you hang out with people like that?" He'd check her phone, just making sure you're safe. Marissa, ever the empath, mistook control for care. They moved in together within 6 months. Travis was respected in the department, but he had a reputation for being by the book to a fault. He didn't bend rules. He broke people to fit them. His ex-wife had filed a restraining order years earlier, citing emotional abuse. It was quietly dismissed. With Marissa, he was possessive. He isolated her from friends, discouraged her from finishing her psychology degree, and monitored her every move. But Marissa was smart. She saw the pattern. And one night, after a particularly vicious argument, he accused her of cheating with a co-worker. She packed a bag and left. She didn't tell anyone where she went. She disappeared. For nearly a year, Marissa resurfaced in Jacksonville, working at a small bookstore under a different name. She had dyed her hair, changed her wardrobe, and started therapy. But trauma doesn't vanish. It festers. She kept tabs on Travis. She knew he was still in Leon County, still rising through the ranks. She knew he had started dating again, and she knew something else. One of his new girlfriends, Lena Morales, a 26-year-old bartender, had gone missing. No one connected the dots, but Marissa did. Marissa's therapy had helped her understand her patterns, her trauma, her triggers, but it hadn't erased the rage, the injustice, the fear. She began documenting Travis's movements. She created burner accounts, followed his social media, even posed as a reporter to get access to internal department records. She believed Travis had hurt Lena, and she was going to prove it. But somewhere along the way, her obsession blurred the line between justice and revenge. Marissa Lane had always been good at hiding. She learned it as a child. How to disappear into silence when her father's rage echoed to the house. How to smile through her mother's sermons about demons and discipline. She became a master of emotional camouflage, blending in, surviving. But survival isn't healing. After fleeing Travis Holt, Marissa spent nearly a year in Jacksonville under the alias Mara Lee. She worked at a quiet bookstore, lived in a modest apartment, and attended therapy twice a week. Her therapist, Dr. Elaine Mercer, described her as hyper-intelligent, emotionally fractured, and deeply afraid of being powerless. Marissa didn't want revenge. She wanted truth. But truth, she would learn, is a dangerous addiction. It started with a news article, a missing persons report. Lena Morales, 26, last seen leaving a bar in Tallahassee. The same bar Travis frequented. The same bar where Marissa had once worked part-time during their relationship. Marissa felt the old panic rise in her chest. The same dread she'd felt when Travis would lock the bedroom door during arguments. The same fear when he'd whisper, "You belong to me." She began to dig. She created burner accounts, posed as a freelance journalist, filed FOIA requests. She tracked Lena's last known movements, cross-referenced them with Travis's patrol logs, and found overlaps. Too many overlaps. She started a wall in her apartment. Photos, maps, strings connecting faces and dates. It looked like something out of a conspiracy thriller. But to Marissa, it was clarity. She wasn't spiraling. She was solving. Dr. Mercer noticed a change. Marissa stopped talking about her own trauma. She started talking about Travis, about Lena, about patterns. Her sessions became less about healing and more about strategy. "I'm not paranoid," she told Dr. Mercer. "I'm prepared." But paranoia and preparation often were the same mask. Marissa began tailing Travis. She rented a car under a fake name. She followed him to bars, to parks, even to his mother's house. She recorded conversations. She broke into his trash. She found a receipt for industrial-strength bleach. She found a photo of Lena in his glove compartment. She found a burner phone with text that read, "She's asking questions. Handle it." Marissa's mind fractured. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a witness. And maybe she thought she was the only one who could stop him. One night, Marissa drove to Travis's house. She parked across the street and watched. He was alone, drinking, watching TV. She imagined walking in, confronting him, demanding answers. But she didn't. Instead, she drove to Lena's apartment, broke in, looked for clues, found a diary. The last entry read, "He scares me. I think he's watching me. I don't know what to do." Marissa snapped. She believed Travis had killed Lena, and she believed no one would ever prove it. So she made a plan. Lena Morales was the kind of woman people remembered. She had a laugh that filled rooms, a tattoo of Phoenix on her shoulder, and a habit of calling strangers love like they were old friends. At 26, she was working nights at the Rusty Anchor, a bar just off Appalachie Parkway in Tallahassee, saving up to open her own art studio. She lived alone in a small apartment above a laundromat. Her walls were covered in canvases, bold, chaotic strokes of color that mirrored her inner world. She painted to survive, to process, to breathe. But Lena had secrets too, and one of them wore a badge. Lena met Deputy Travis Holt one night when he came into the bar off duty. He was charming, polite, and tipped well. He asked about her art. She told him about her dreams. They started seeing each other casually. Nothing serious, she told her friends. But soon, things changed. He'd show up unannounced, ask who she was texting, get angry when she didn't answer his calls. One night, he followed her home and waited outside her apartment for hours. Lena confided in her best friend, Jasmine, saying, "He's intense. Like, too intense. I feel like I'm being watched." She tried to end things, but Travis didn't take rejection well. In the weeks before her disappearance, Lena became withdrawn. She stopped painting, missed shifts, told Jasmine she was thinking of leaving town. She started journaling again, something she hadn't done since high school. Her entries were erratic, emotional, and filled with fear. "I think he's following me. I saw his car outside again. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm disappearing." Then one night, she vanished. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. Just an empty apartment and a phone left behind. The police filed a missing persons report. Travis was questioned briefly, but dismissed as not a person of interest. He claimed they had ended things weeks earlier. But Marissa Lane knew better. When Marissa broke into Lena's apartment, she wasn't looking for closure. She was looking for proof. She found Lena's journal. Read every page. Saw the fear, the patterns, the same behaviors Travis had used on her. And something snapped. Marissa believed Lena was dead. She believed Travis had killed her. And she believed no one would ever hold him accountable. Marissa Lane didn't plan to kill. Not at first. Her original plan was to expose Travis Holt. She wanted to gather enough evidence to force an internal investigation, maybe even get him arrested. She believed Lena Morales had been murdered, and she believed Travis was responsible. But the system had failed her before. And when she found Lena's journal, the final entry still fresh with fear, something inside her snapped. She stopped thinking like a survivor. She started thinking like a hunter. Marissa rented a storage unit under a fake name. Inside, she built what she called her truth room, a space filled with photos, maps, timelines, and psychological profiles. She studied Travis's routines, his patrol routes, his habits. She knew where he drank, where he parked, where he slept. She also knew where Lena's body was buried. Or at least, she thought she did. Using clues from Lena's journal and GPS data from Travis's burner phone, Marissa traced a remote patch of woods near Lake Talquin. She went there at night, armed with gloves, a shovel, and a flashlight. She dug for hours, and then she found it. A shallow grave, a trash bag. Inside, decomposed remains. A tattoo on the wrist, forever free. It was Lena. Marissa didn't call the police. She didn't trust them. Instead, she took the remains, cleaned them, preserved them. She placed them in black trash bags and stored them in her trunk. She wasn't trying to hide the body. She was trying to deliver it. Her plan was to drive to the Leon County Sheriff's Department, park outside, and leave the trunk open. Let them find it. Let them see what Travis had done. But fate intervened. On her way to the station, Marissa's taillight flickered. Officer Darren Cole, on routine patrol, noticed a violation and pulled her over. Marissa was calm. Too calm. She handed over her license. Smiled, but her eyes kept drifting to the trunk. Cole noticed a smell, bleach, decay. Something wrong. He called for backup. When they opened the trunk, the horror unfolded. 3 bags, 1 leaking. Inside, body parts. A severed arm. A tattoo. Marissa didn't resist. She simply said, "You weren't supposed to find that." In custody, Marissa refused a lawyer. She spoke in fragments, like her mind was unraveling. "I tried to save her," she said. "No one listens until there's blood. He buried her like trash. I brought her back." Psychologists describe her as high-functioning but delusional. She believed she was enacting justice, that the system had failed, and she had become its reckoning. But the law didn't see a vigilante. They saw a woman with body parts in her trunk. Marissa Lane sat in the cold, sterile interrogation room, her wrists cuffed to the metal table, her eyes locked on the one-way mirror. She wasn't crying. She wasn't pleading. She was waiting. Outside, detectives scrambled. The body in the trunk would confirm to be Lena Morales, The autopsy revealed trauma, strangulation, and signs of postmortem concealment. But the timeline was murky. The evidence was thin. And Travis Holt? He was still wearing his badge, still patrolling the streets, still untouchable. Detective Alana Briggs stared at the crime board in silence. Something didn't add up. Marissa's story was too detailed, too deliberate. She wasn't a killer. She was something else. A messenger. But what was the message? Meanwhile, Travis stood in his driveway, watching the news coverage. His face was calm, but his fingers twitched. He knew Marissa. He knew how she thought. And he knew she hadn't told him everything. Not yet. Then came the twist. A second body was found, buried deeper in the woods near Lake Talquin. No ID, no fingerprints, just a badge. A deputy's badge. And suddenly, the case wasn't just about Lena. It was about how many secrets Travis Holt had buried, and whether Marissa Lane was the only one brave, or broken enough to dig them up. She said the body in the trunk was only the beginning. But what if it was just a warning? If Marissa Lane didn't kill Lena Morales, then who did? And if the real killer is still out there, still wearing a badge, still protected by silence, how many more graves are waiting to be found? In the shadows of justice, someone is watching, someone is digging, and the truth is far from buried. Subscribe to this channel, and stay tuned for the best part of this twisted crime story.
12:56 a.m. on 4/18.